Hello, Dr. Neil. This is Carlos Sosa, and I will be teaching in 3rd to 5th grade SDC Math Severe Autism class. The content area for this TPA will be math, and the area of need will be telling time. The learning goal is as follows. Students will be able to tell and write time in hours, half hours, and 5 minute intervals using an analog or digital clock. The measurable lesson objectives are as follows. Students will be able to identify and write time to the hour using an analog or digital clock, identify and write time to the half hour using an analog or digital clock, identify and write time to the 5 minute intervals using an analog or digital clock, tell the difference between the hour and the minute hand on the clock, match an analog presentation on a clock to the corresponding digital time, understand the difference between an analog and digital clock, understand the idea that clocks come in different shapes and sizes. Planned supports are as follows. Teacher will use a battery-operated analog and digital clock to show the difference between them. Teacher will use a computer and screen projector to play YouTube music videos. Links are provided below. To play the songs, telling time to the half hour and hour song, and telling time with minutes. Songs will teach the difference between the hour and the minute hand in the clocks, as well as what time looks like when displaying the analog or digital clock, and to teach the concept of the hour and half hour and 5 minute intervals. Teacher will provide students with the following materials to make paper plate clocks: paper plates, black markers, scissors, black construction paper for the minute hand, and red construction paper for the hour hand. Cutout worksheets with numbers from 1 through 12, brass fasteners. Paper plate clocks will teach students the analog clock and will give a visual support of how the hand rotation of the clock works and the location of the numbers. Paper plate clocks will also be used as a manipulative and visual aid to demonstrate the difference between the length of the minute and hour hand. Teacher will use a whiteboard to provide a formative assessment by writing 3 digital times and have the students match it with their paper plate analog clock. Students will work as a whole group during the lesson introduction. Students will be given extra time and support to complete the lesson. Students will be divided into pairs to think and share the following questions. What is used to tell time? Why is it important to know the time? Where do you find the clocks? What shapes and sizes are clocks? Students who need extra help will be given a one-on-one support. Students will be provided Chromebooks or iPads to have access to an interactive computer web program called I Know It to practice and assess their telling time skills. Links are provided below. Teacher will run the STAR program during the lesson to help students with ASD in order to enhance the lesson. Students will utilize the STAR flashcards to pair key concepts when labeling their clocks. Teacher will use telling time worksheets to assess students' knowledge and mastery of time telling. Response prompting and fading procedures will be utilized throughout the lesson. The Common Core standards are as follows. CCSS Math Content 1 MDB3 Measurement and Data Tell and Write Time. CCSS Math Content 2 MDC7 Measurement and Data Work with Time and Money. CCSS Math Content 3 MDA1 Measurement and Data Solve Problems Involving Measurements and Estimation. Related IEP goals or IEP objectives are as follows. When given the instruction to tell or write time, student will be able to use an analog or digital clock to appropriately tell or write time to the hour, to the half hour, and to the 5 minute intervals with 80% accuracy in 4 out of 5 opportunities in 5 data collection days. Objective 1. When given the instruction to tell or write time, students will be able to use an analog or digital clock to appropriately tell or write time to the hour, with 80% accuracy in 4 out of 5 opportunities in 5 data collection days. Objective 2. When given the instruction to tell or write time, student will be able to use an analog or digital clock to appropriately tell or write time to the half hour with 80% accuracy in 4 out of 5 opportunities in 5 data collection days. Objective 3. When given the instruction to tell or write time, student will be able to use an analog or digital clock to appropriately tell or write time to the 5 minute intervals with 80% accuracy in 4 out of 5 opportunities in 5 data collection days. Accommodations and or modifications to the learning environment instruction or assessment as required by the IEP and relevant to the learning targets are as follows. Teacher will provide extra time to students to work on time telling, worksheets, pair share, and assessments. One-on-one support will be provided to those who need extra help understanding the concept of time telling. Class will be divided into small groups of 3 to provide personalized instruction for time telling. Students will be given the opportunity to pair up with another student to discuss teachers' questions during Think and Share. Students will be given iPads and Chromebooks to access iKnowIt website to supplement the time-telling lesson. Students will be able to make their own analog clock from paper plates as manipulative and visual support. Students' worksheet will be modified into small parts to give them the opportunity to understand the lessons better. Students will be given a 5-minute break every 15 minutes of work. Students will have access to sensory diets in order to keep them focused and engaged. Preferential seating will be available to students who need it. PECs and AAC devices will be provided by the teacher for students with communication needs to conversate during instruction time. Technologies such as YouTube videos and computer web programs will be used as visuals to support a lesson of time telling. Teacher will merge key concepts from the STAR program such as analog clock, hour hand, minute hand, hour, minute, and clockwise to generalize vocabulary to math content. Teacher, classroom staff will model work when needed as well as will read aloud instruction during classroom activities and individual work. Expressive or receptive communication skills are as follows. Students will be using receptive and expressive communication skills in order to participate and effectively communicate the time-telling lesson. Students will use receptive communication in order to effectively listen to the teacher, staff, and their peers while doing parent-share activities. Students will engage in receptive communication while watching YouTube videos or listening to the interactive websites or using their iPads or Chromebooks. Students will use receptive communication to listen attentively to the teacher while he introduces the lesson and ask questions regarding time telling. Expressive communication will be utilized by students in order to respond to teachers and students' questions and comments. Students will be required to use expressive communication to provide feedback to the teacher as well as other students during the instruction of the time telling lesson. Students will use expressive communication to effectively conversate with peers while doing parent share activities. Students will use expressive communication to ask for help when needed during lesson, assessment, group, and individual work. Resource materials and modifications or accommodations the student needs relating to the resources and materials are as follows. Teacher materials that are needed, telling time worksheets, lesson plan, students' email and passwords to access their computers, whiteboard, erasable markers, permanent markers, sample paper plate clock, access to the internet and websites, analog and digital clock, Skittles, M&Ms, and salted pretzels as reinforcers. Student materials that are needed, paper plate, black markers, scissors, black construction paper for the minute hand and red construction paper for the hour hand, cutout worksheets with numbers from 1 through 12, brass fasteners, pencils, erasers. Technology that is needed, AAC device, computer, Chromebooks, iPad, and projector. Introduction to lesson activating thinking are as follows. Teacher will start the math lesson by seating students in their assigned seats and will draw on the board 3 different objects, an apple, a clock, and a frog, to ask students which object is used to tell time. Teacher will give students 1 minute to formulate an answer. Teacher will give students the opportunity to respond by raising their hands and taking turns to speak and answer the question. Teacher will use informative assessments to evaluate the students' prior knowledge by giving them verbal feedback such as great job, amazing, well done. That is a great answer, but try again when they respond, but not limited to. Teacher will let students know that clocks tell time and they come in different shapes and sizes. Teacher will separate students into groups of 3 to think and share the following question. What is used to tell time? Why is it important to know time? Where do you find clocks? What shapes and sizes are clocks? Teacher and staff will walk around to assist students to ensure they are on task and to provide feedback as needed. As they're working on their assigned groups, teacher will instruct students to get their STAR vocabulary, time-telling concepts out for the following words. Analog, analog clock, digital clock, hour hand, hour, minute, and clockwise, to further discuss it with the group and to label a face clock to assess for knowledge and understanding. Teacher will then instruct students to go back to their assigned seats because they're going to watch a video and will make a paper plate clock after watching the videos in order to practice time. Teacher will provide visuals, scaffolding, and models to ELL students to assist them understanding the lesson. Teacher will seat students with severe maladaptive behaviors near classroom mates and away from distractors in order to meet their needs and provide them with more support during the lesson. Teacher will provide students with fidgets, weighted vests, compression vests, chewies, squishy balls, and slime to those who have greater sensorial needs. Body of lessons teaching strategies are as follows. Teacher will use computer screen projector to play YouTube music videos to play the songs, telling time to the half hour and hour song, and telling time with minutes. Teacher will use the songs to teach the following: the difference between the hour and minute hand in the clock, how time is displayed in the analog and digital clock, and to teach the concept of the hour, half hour, and 5-minute intervals. The links are provided below. Teacher will provide students the following materials and will model the steps on how to make paper plate clocks. Teacher will provide paper plates, black markers, scissors, black construction paper for the minute hand, and red construction paper for the hour hand. Cut-out worksheet with the numbers from 1 through 12. Brass fasteners. Teacher will use the paper plate clocks to teach students the analog clock and to give a visual support of how the hand rotation of the clock will work and the location of the numbers. Teacher will use the paper clock as a manipulative and visual aid to demonstrate the difference between the length of the minute and hour hand. To assess the students, teacher will use a whiteboard to provide a formative assessment by writing 3 digital times of each 1 hour, half hour, and 5-minute intervals to have the student match it with their paper plate analog clock. Teacher will provide PECs and AAC devices to students with communication needs to conversate during instruction time. Teacher will give students extra time and support to complete the clock or provide answers. Teacher and staff will walk around to assist students to ensure they're on task and to provide feedback as needed. Teacher would randomly ask students to define the meaning of analog and digital clock and the difference between the hour and minute hand to give them an opportunity to practice new vocabulary words. Teacher and classroom mates will give students who need extra support a one-to-one assistance to further their understanding and knowledge. After reading the classroom reinforcement and learning a quantitative synthesis by Journal of Education Research, teacher will use differential reinforcement as an instructional strategy to facilitate the understanding of the lesson to ASD students by reinforcing correct answers, participation, and positive behaviors during instruction or work time. After reading simultaneous prompting and instruction strategy for skill acquisition by educational training in autism and developmental disability, teacher will use response prompting and fading procedures as a way to increase correct responses, minimizing student error, and improve student participation during instruction time. Closure, summarizing strategy is as follows. To summarize students' understanding, teacher will ask students to recall the STAR vocabulary in order to independently label each part of the paper plate clock to connect their prior knowledge with their knowledge. Teacher will provide students with Chromebooks, iPads to have access to an interactive computer web program, I Know It, to practice and assess their telling time skills, as well as to connect their prior knowledge with new knowledge. Assessment evaluation is as follows. Teacher will use pre-assessments by asking various questions such as what is used to tell time, what time is it, which hand is the hour and minute hand, but not limited to evaluate students' prior knowledge and level of understanding. Teacher will use observation data collection throughout the lesson to determine the student's level of performance, engagement, and understanding of the concept. Teacher will use telling time worksheets quiz as a summative assessment to evaluate students' knowledge and mastery of time telling at the end of the lesson.